Hello, I'm Olivia. I'm a naturopath, homeopath, herbalist, and nutritionist, and I'm just really excited to bring this tutorial to life. I qualified as a homeopath over 10 years ago. So, in the last decade, I have created and sold a lot of homeopathic kits. However, I've only ever sold them to my existing patients that I've seen in the clinic. And it was only in about the last year and a half, I'd say, I felt this pull to share homeopathy and to share homeopathic kits with more people. It must be the stage of life that I'm in as a parent, but I do think it's never been more important to have natural, safe, and effective healthcare options at the tip of our fingertips, in our first aid cabinet, in our home, in our car. Truthfully, I feel like society has never been sicker. And we've never had more confusion and misinformation around us than we have right now. What we know is that 1 in 2 Aussies have at least one chronic disease like diabetes or depression. So many of us are struggling with dis-ease, and disease is just that. It's where there's dis-ease. It's where the body's out of whack. And the thing is our body has an innate ability to heal. It does. Your body knows what to do. And homeopathics are a great tool to remind your body how to heal. Homeopathics gently stimulate your body's healing capabilities. So, as I said, welcome. Grab a cuppa. Get whatever your beverage of choice is, because I'm going to have you here for at least 20 or 30 minutes. You have your ebook. You guys all have this. This is your Bible. This is your guide. This walks you through which remedy to use and when. But I really wanted to bring this tutorial to life so I could connect with you, but also I wanted to share a little bit more with you around the history of homeopathy and the dosage and frequency of the remedies that you've got in the kit, because homeopathy works. It does. And you're going to be blown away with the effectiveness of it. But when you're using and getting introduced to any new skill, you have to create confidence around that. And the only way to do that is to start with those small, doable, healthy habits. And so I'm going to be encouraging and inspiring you to start using your homeopathics before you reach for the over-the-counter medication. When you have headaches or period pains or colds and flus, before you get to the stage where you feel like you might need something else, it's so empowering to have a natural healthcare option that you can use that is safe. It has no contraindications with other supplements or medication. And you don't need to be a homeopath to use homeopathy. So, last thing I want to mention actually is, yes, I'm a homeopath and naturopath, but I am so not perfect. And for those of you that know me, know that I'm always on about that, because I have, what have I got? I've got 5 kids that are 7 or under. I'm today operating on about 3 hours sleep. And I don't always make the best food choices. Some nights I just want time to myself without anyone touching me or talking to me. And so I might scroll Instagram, or I might sit up and have a really enjoyable Netflix binge. I don't live a perfect life, and no one should, because that's dull and it's unsustainable. So I'm often time poor. I can get caught up with the busyness of life. But for me, having homeopathics that I can use and my husband can use and my children, and now knowing that they can use and rely on, is really empowering. And that's something that I want you to take away from this tutorial, is that if you can just practice it, start using it, you'll be blown away with how quickly you'll start to learn the different remedies. And it will become second nature for you to start to reach for these little bottles of magic. Okay, so let's talk about the history of homeopathy. Do you know what's really common for people to say to me? I haven't really heard much about homeopathy. And the thing is, in the 1900s, there were homeopathic hospitals all over the country. The first homeopathic hospital was in Melbourne, and that was in 1876. since then it's been renamed as the Prince Henry's Hospital, but then there was the Homeopathic Hospital in Sydney. There were homeopathic hospitals all over the different states. And they were thriving. These homeopathic hospitals were thriving with treating and supporting patients with both acute and chronic conditions and complaints for about 50 or 60 years. And it was until then when the orthodox medical facilities, big pharma, kind of came in. And let's be honest, the profit margin of homeopathics is minuscule. One of your bottles, just one of your bottles, has about 200 to 250 drops in it. That's up to 250 uses, which means per drop, it's less than 5 cents per drop to help bring the body back to a state of balance or to address, a headache or a fever or cold or flu. So you can't make a lot of money off homeopathy if you're thinking about it from that perspective. So, towards the end of that time, homeopathy almost fizzled out, I would say. There's definitely been a re-emergence in kind of the last 10 years where we are taking more accountability for our health because so many of us are sick and tired of being sick and tired. We don't need to accept that feeling fatigued or having brain fog or being bloated or carrying around extra weight. We don't need to, and we shouldn't accept that that's normal, because it doesn't need to be your norm. And so as people are moving more towards that preventative model of health, and they're trying to do what they can to protect and support their health, homeopathy is starting to pop up more and more in both health food shops. I saw some the other day in my local chemist. It was in the birthing suite it's becoming more and more known. The effectiveness of homeopathy has always been known. Homeopathy has been referred to time and time again in scientific data, in peer-reviewed medical journals. If you just jump onto PubMed, the biggest peer-reviewed medical journal, you will start to see different studies they've done to look at the effectiveness of homeopathy. So it's there. It is actually classified as the second largest form of medicine in the world. So homeopathy is used, the Queen, David Beckham, Usain Bolt, it is used by a number of well-known people, celebrities, athletes, because of its healing ability, its safety, and its effectiveness. Arnica is one of the most common homeopathic remedies that people have heard of or think of. And if you haven't, don't worry, you will become very well acquainted with Arnica. But there is a study from the National Library of Medicine, which you can look up, which states Arnica has equal effectiveness to conventional, non-steroidal, anti-inflammatory drugs in the treatment of postoperative pain and swelling. So what that means, Arnica as a homeopathic, just one drop on the tongue or added to a glass of water, can help manage pain and swelling after surgery or an operation. And it is just as effective as over-the-counter pain medication, but without the cost, without the potential side effects, and without the worry. So isn't that empowering? Isn't that magical? Because we are getting back to our roots. We're getting back to basics. We are nature as human beings. And I just think it's so cool, because I'm a complete dork, but I do think it's so cool that we are using nature to restore our health. So as I said, I'm not going to go too much into the nitty gritty of your different specific remedies, because you guys have your own ebook. And print it out. Print out 1, 2, 3 copies. Have one in the car. This is your Bible, guys. That goes through all of the different remedies. But I really want to help you understand what homeopathy is and how to pick a specific remedy to get the result that you want. So what is homeopathy and how do we pick the right remedy? Homeopathy is a natural form of medicine, and it is based on a very specific principle called the law of similars. And this essentially means that like cures like. It sounds confusing. Let me explain it. If a substance is capable of causing that substance is often capable of curing. And this is the basis for a number of medicines and vaccines that are on the market today. So think of radiation, for example. Radiation can be a cause of cancer. Radiation can be a cure of cancer. Think of Ritalin. Ritalin is quite a common medication that's used for hyperactivity. For someone that is fairly stable and regulated, if they take Ritalin, it can cause hyperactivity. But if you have a child or adult that is hyperactive, Ritalin can calm them. Coffee is a great example. I'm a huge coffee lover. I'm not going to tell you to stop drinking coffee, don't you worry. But with coffee, for me, when I wake up in the morning, if I'm feeling a little flat or a little low, coffee is amazing because it supports me with concentration, with focus. However, for someone that's feeling quite jittery, they're quite wired, they're having issues falling asleep at night, they've got a lot of mind chatter, coffee, taken in a homeopathic form, can calm them. So what's really interesting about homeopathy as opposed to, let's say, an over-the-counter medication like an antihistamine, let's say I have 10 patients that come to see me in clinic and all 10 of them have hay fever. I might give all 10 of those patients a different homeopathic remedy to suit their hay fever symptoms, because each person's presentation of hay fever and their whole constitution is different to each other. Whereas an over-the-counter antihistamine, you would prescribe to those 10 patients. So with homeopathy, it can be a bit frustrating because there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach, so to speak. So all you need to remember is you've got 18 key remedies. So when someone, for example, has a headache, there isn't just one remedy for the headache. There's a handful of remedies. And you, as the home prescriber for homeopathy, you get to pick which remedy suits and has the best match of the symptoms that you or a child is experiencing. I'm going to circle back to that in a minute. I'll leave that one there for now. Let's now talk about the dosage and frequency, and then we're going to kind of bring it all together with that remedy selection. Stay with me, guys. So with the dosage, you've got these beautiful bottles. What do you do with them and how do you take it? The instructions are all in your ebook, but to make it really simple, all you do is you grab your bottle and you give it a good shake. Shake it kind of a few times. Then you add 1 drop of the remedy straight onto the tongue, or you add 1 or 2 drops to a bottle of water and you sip on it. That is it. That is 1 dose of a homeopathic remedy. If you're going to add a drop straight on your tongue, just do make sure the end of the dropper doesn't connect with your tongue, because we don't want to not dilute. We don't want to, I've had a mental blank. I can't think of the word, but you know what I mean. We don't want it connecting with our body. So that's it. That's how easy it is to take a remedy. How often should you take them? Look, this kit is designed as kind of a first aid acute kit. So the frequency is that you would probably take 1 dose every half an hour until you get a reduction of symptoms or you start to improve. Typically with homeopathy, you continue taking a homeopathic remedy until you start to get a result, until you start to see some level of improvement, and then you reduce the frequency or you stop. So the frequency does depend on the intensity of the complaint or the sign or symptom. For example, if someone was stung by a bee and they look in their ebook, they will see that one of the remedies you take is from the bee and it's apis. Now you would probably, for a bee sting, you would take apis quite frequently, maybe every 5 or 10 minutes until you get relief. But if someone's got something else, let's say they've had a cold for 5 days, they're not going to take a remedy every 5 or 10 minutes. They might just take a few doses for the day. So the general rule of thumb, take 1 dose every 30 minutes until the symptoms start to reduce. You should notice an improvement within 2 or 3 doses. If you don't, all good. It just means you need to stop taking that remedy, select another remedy. What remedy do you select? Select another remedy that you feel is most similar to the symptoms or the complaints that you have. You can take a homeopathic remedy up to 6 times a day, so you can use it fairly frequently. At the end of the day, if you can't decide between 2 remedies, you can have a couple of doses of both. It's okay. So in this kit, I have very consciously selected 18 remedies. In an ideal world, I think I'd love to give you all 40, 50 remedies, but that would just completely throw you into this state of overwhelm and confusion. So these 18 remedies are very specific, but one remedy can address 5 different symptoms or complaints. So for example, one remedy could address both headaches and bloating. So this is where too, as you use your homeopathic remedies, you'll start to get momentum. You'll start to build up your own knowledge base of which remedy to reach for and when. But until then, use your ebook. So your kit has the 18 remedies to address those acute complaints and those common childhood ailments like anxiety, bites, bruises, burns, cuts, cold flu, colic, cough, conjunctivitis, digestive issues, including bloating, colic, gastro, diarrhea, earache, fever, headache, mastitis and breastfeeding issues, restlessness, sleep issues, toothache, tonsillitis, and worms. So as you can see, there's so many things. Keep in mind, if you have a symptom or a complaint that is concerning you, I do recommend that you always speak to your medical or health practitioner. So you've got your 18 remedies. You know they can address so many different complaints and conditions. How do you know what remedy to select? Well, first of all, you're going to use your book. Your ebook's going to tell you. But let's say, for example, you're experiencing anxiety and it doesn't really feel like manageable anxiety. It's starting to get to the point where you're feeling, a little overwhelmed or a little jittery. You will turn to the anxiety page in your ebook and you'll see that there's 4 main remedies in your kit that could support you. That's my job. I've told you which remedies may help you. Now the fun is that your job is you need to read through each remedy and you need to select which remedy is most suitable for you. Which remedy seems to match most of your symptoms. So you can see there's aconite, arsenicum, gelsemium, and ignatia. So aconite is for that acute anxiety and restlessness. So it typically comes on very quickly, very suddenly, potentially right before an event. Arsenicum is more fearfulness of being deserted or alone or fearing something specific around life or death. Gelsemium is a great one for stage fright or scared of flying. So it's when you have anxiety around a very specific event and it may impact your confidence, public speaking, those sorts of things. So typically too with gelsemium, you'll have this fatigue that can start to set in, and it's often related to that overthinking anxiety process. The last remedy that may suit you is ignatia. Now, ignatia is often used for some type of grief or disappointment or some type of specific emotional upset that has triggered the feeling of anxiety, the feeling of disconnected, out of place, homesick. And that can start to flow into your sleep habits where you're just getting this interrupted sleep. So out of those 4 remedies, you would pick which remedy is most suitable. You then take that remedy from your kit, you take 1 drop straight on the tongue or add it to your bottle of water and you sip on it and you wait. And you see if and when that remedy starts to take effect. If you get to 3 doses and there's been no real change with how you're feeling on that physical or emotional level, don't worry, select a new remedy. That's the really cool thing about homeopathy. It is frustrating that there's no one-size-fits-all approach, but it also means that you are respecting that you are a complete individual and your experience of anxiety might be very different to my experience of anxiety. And therefore, we need to stimulate our body's healing capacity using different substances. So that brings us to my final message, which is you are now empowered. You have another tool that you get to add to your toolkit to take responsibility and accountability for your health. My goal is for you to become the expert in your own health. So use your homeopathic remedies, enjoy them, and let them start to become part of your everyday. Bye.